Welcome back, guys. You're listening to Radio Taiwan International, and this is Geek Out. I'm your host, Michelle Chang. What's your cup of tea? What tickles your fancy, or what floats your boat? Join us as we share passions from people in Taiwan and around the world. Today in the studio, we have Kim again. She's back for part 2.
Yahoo!
Hey.
Hello!
So Kim Gordon is with us. This time, also serious, but rooted in not so serious stuff.
Hopefully.
Yes, we both very proudly hail from the nerd culture.
You
Yes,
represent.
represent. Wearing the nerd badge with pride.
I have my Avengers t-shirt on.
Oh, she does. You can't see her, but she does.
That's right.
So nerd culture in general, I think, as in the previous episode, we disclosed that we are not quite spring chickens. Both of us are, I think you're pushing 40. I'm already in the 40s. I do have to check that box now.
I'm not yet. This year I turned 39, I think, if my math is right.
When we were kids, as far as entertainment goes, we were both reading comic books, right? Mostly Marvel for you?
Marvel and a little bit of DC.
Yeah, me too. Mostly vast majority Marvel. A little bit of Batman in the DC universe. That was just about it. Besides comic books, what else were we doing?
Playing video games.
Also comic book based or just all video games?
Most of them. Most of video games, all of them. No, I was doing RPGs like Final Fantasy, Street Fighter for fighting games.
Yeah, I think we were both around for the introduction of the very first NES.
Yes, I have one still to this day.
So
I still have to blow in it.
Yep. Absolutely. Some of you youngins won't know what we're talking about, but yes, you used to have to blow in the cartridges before they'll work.
That's right.
Right?
For my classic favorite, Mario.
Right. Oh, I'm so glad that they still have that around. In fact, they have stuff like Maker. Right.
I know. I wish I could play it. I don't have it yet.
So, right. As nerds, growing up as children, we were mostly into, Marvel comic books. Which ones were your favorite?
I was a big X-Men girl.
Oh,
that was my jam. Yeah.
And who in the X-Men?
Storm.
Storm was your girl?
Oh, yeah. Storm is my number one. She was and still is my favorite X-Men character.
Yep.
And very good representation for black girls.
Yes.
And not that I am, but just like in general.
Yeah, I loved Storm as well. And Phoenix, when she, yes, the whole, loving villains is kind of my thing.
Oh, that Dark Phoenix is right up your alley for sure.
Absolutely. So I was reading the comic books as we were growing up, and as far as representation goes, how do you feel about that? Like from the material, did you feel like you were properly represented?
Oh no,
absolutely,
definitely not. Marvel tries very well to try to be very inclusive, and they always have. That's always been a big thing.
Yep,
even
in the 80s,
yes,
in the 70s,
because they were the voice for those who were disparaged by society and things like that, right?
Today, just to clarify, you guys, so today in modern society, nerds are not. We still receive a little bit of hate, but who doesn't? But it used to be if you were this kind of nerdy, you were super outcast.
Yes,
especially as children at school. I was definitely sitting alone a lot of the time during free periods or lunches, and just reading comic books or whatnot. So people who created these comic books tried very, very hard because they themselves were ostracized.
Yes, they knew what it was like not to be included.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And so we fought so you guys could play, all right?
Oh, that's very true. We did the hard work.
Our movies used to be really like B movies, and nobody wanted to go see them, and it just wasn't quite the same as it is now.
Things have changed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. We're in a renaissance right now. It's wonderful. It's so good. It's a good time.
They tried, but we still didn't see as much representation as we would want it to.
Right.
So both in you can't see us right now, but I am East Asian, with my lineage coming from northern China, who ran into South Korea during the whole communist revolution. And looking at Asian characters in Marvel, there really weren't very many.
They were, and those that they did have were very stereotypical.
Right, like
we're looking at you, the Mandarin.
Right. Right, or Doctor Strange, you would see like the ancient one, who they cast not Asian in the movies.
Yeah. But there's actually a decent reason for that in the MCU.
That's true.
But decent, you
know. No hate on Tilda Swinton. We love her.
Yeah, she's crazy.
Them. Yeah. So, right. How about you? How did you feel about your... Kim is sitting in the studio today. And describe your, I guess...
My heritage, I guess. My mom's side, we hail from Puerto Rico. My mom is on a Taíno bloodline.
Yeah.
Which is like indigenous Puerto Ricans and allegedly witchcraft. And then on my dad's side is very white. Scottish, Irish, grew up in Oklahoma, sort of, white, that kind of white. Nice. So I was a very mixed house, and I have never really seen myself represented in any capacity until the past 10 years in comic books.
Right. And we were also touching on the fact that me, myself being bisexual and you being
asexual.
Right. We very, very rarely saw that represented in media growing up, period.
Yep.
The Marvel Comics did also try.
Yeah. Yeah. Wade Wilson, good old Deadpool.
Well, okay.
But actually, he doesn't identify as bi. He identifies as pan. Yeah.
Yes. And Ryan Reynolds, if you're ever listening to this, please come. Oh, I would so, first of all,
die.
I would die.
Yeah.
I would just heart attack and just keel over in the lobby. If you were ever to come to RTI, please come to RTI. I don't mind dying. But yes, Deadpool absolutely identified as pan.
Pan, yes.
But they did try in the comic books to do some amount of representation. So growing up, though, we would go from comic books and video games into TV.
Yes.
TV and movies. What did you watch?
I grew up watching the Wonder Woman reruns on FX, and then the X-Men cartoon.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's right. And then from there, I went to Xena, and then Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
right.
which is my bread and butter.
Oh, I remember Xena. That was so good.
That's right. And Buffy kind of, in my opinion, was a trendsetter for representation of lesbians on TV. And then Joss Whedon decided to just be a monster about them and ruined that. But it was not long after the whole Ellen thing that, Buffy came along with and gave people more sense of self and more feeling seen on television like that. Xena did as well much later on too.
Right. I am happy that there was at the very, very least, very strong female characters that we could watch. We could relate to them. But when we were growing up and we were watching even shows like Xena, Warrior Princess, there was definitely a community of people, for example, trans or just people who don't identify as either.
Non-binary.
Non-binary folk that didn't really have anyone.
That's right.
In the media,
and still
period.
Don't.
And still don't. At least as we grew up, the media and various studios attempted to do more.
Right. But a lot of the problems with our media was that it was written namely by men. And so we're seeing this so-called feminism in the 80s and 90s through a male lens.
Yes.
Which means, for me personally, that you're seeing women still being like sexually exploited. They have to be hot to be powerful. You see this on Doctor Who with River Song.
Yep.
You see it with Joss Whedon's original idea for the Wonder Woman film, where all he does is describe her body.
Never mind the costumes.
Yeah.
We're not even going to get into costumes.
No.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
impractical. Totally impractical.
I mean, if you're going to wear armor, really? Boobs armor, guys?
I know
Boobs
it.
armor.
So let's all take a moment and thank Henry Cavill for putting boob armor on Geralt of Rivia in season 2 of The Witcher.
Thank
that was
you.
excellent.
Yes, thank you, Henry Cavill.
Classic nerd.
So, recent years. I've been watching A Million Little Things. I know you haven't seen that, but also very recently The Last of Us, and surprisingly, without any spoilers, not spoiling anything, much more representation.
Oh yeah.
So
the child is non-binary, I believe, too. Bella Ramsey. Yeah.
Love it. It's I think now, especially recently in the past decade or so, the lens is no longer the cis-normative male lens.
That's right.
So they are bringing in a lot more people who are just, different to tell their story.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have The Eternals was directed by a woman. The Witcher is produced by a woman.
Yep.
But there's plenty of stuff out there. Jessica Jones was produced by
I haven't
mostly
seen that,
women.
and I really should.
Yeah, the first season's excellent. Yeah. It's got my boy David Tennant.
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
We are seeing a renaissance of the nerd industries. Industries? Is that the word?
I mean, we're in a lot of it now.
We are in a lot of stuff.
I remember when I was a kid always wishing that I could make money just being paid to play video games, and now that's an actual job.
That is an actual job now. Oh my goodness, right? Just us messing around at playing video games when we were kids. That is a job that some people make millions of dollars doing. And not just that. I was just talking to Chris Carnahan about people who stream other stuff.
Right.
So like tabletop games. or playing ukulele in your house. So,
Yeah.
so it's just it's definitely an industry,
Yeah.
huge. So Rhino, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think has done a fantastic job of bringing nerd to the mainstream culture.
It sure has.
Guys, I'm not sure any of you, especially if you're listening to this, none of you are living under a rock. You have at some point seen a Marvel movie,
Yeah.
right? And they're all okay, not all. Some of them are well made.
Yeah. Love it or hate it, they're fun. They're not meant to be Oscar-worthy films. We're not looking at you, Wakanda Forever. You're special.
Oh,
but
no,
you know,
no spoilers, but ouch.
yeah. Too soon.
Right.
But-
seriously, I'm very happy that because these big giant blockbuster movies have done such a great job entertaining people, that they've trained the lens onto more of the nerd culture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think, The Witcher would have done so well
Perhaps not. Yeah.
if it was done, 20 years ago.
Yeah, they did it a long time ago in, I want to say, Sweden, where it's
Did they?
Poland. Sorry, it's Polish. Yeah, there was a TV show in
Because
Polish.
the original author is Polish.
Yes.
Yes.
And he came to Taiwan recently, and I'm really upset I wasn't here for it.
Oh, right. He was at the
Yeah.
book fair recently. Tomash, I think, was there.
And he's responsible for a very powerful, well-written female character,
Right.
Yennefer of Vengerberg.
Right. We all know, Tolkien did his thing back
My
in
boy.
the day. But I think it was really like Game of Thrones was also huge in bringing nerd culture into the
Yeah,
spotlight.
I would argue that not Marvel, but Game of Thrones kind of,
Did more for fantasy.
did more for fantasy and make nerd culture mainstream.
Yes.
And Marvel just kind of happened to fall on their coattails or whatever.
Oh, you think
and
Game of Thrones did it first? Who was first? Iron Man 1.
Iron Man was first, I believe, before Game of Thrones.
Right.
But I think the TV show kind of catapulted nerd culture into the mainstream more
Yes.
so because we didn't have as many Marvel movies at that point.
That's true.
And now we're saturated with them, right?
yeah.
You know.
It's pros and cons.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed The Last Ant-Man.
Oh, it was
It was
fun.
super
It was
fun.
fun.
Who doesn't
And-
love Paul Rudd? Paul Rudd, please come visit. Tyler.
And I mean, we had Lord of the Rings before that, which did very well, but it didn't mainstream it
Right.
necessarily. Like it did super well. There's no arguing that.
Yes.
But it,
But something like Game of Thrones was spotlighted.
Right.
And it became water cooler talk,
yeah,
right?
everybody was talking about what happened to Jon Snow. Is he dead? Is he not dead?
Yeah, at this point, if you don't know what happened in Game of Thrones.
Hey, I didn't say he was dead or not. I said, is he dead or is he not? You know, and
Right.
I'm not Tom Holland here. I'm not going to spoil something.
But even in Game of Thrones, we didn't receive that much representation.
No, that's a white
It's
white people city.
It's
Like,
very white people. Yeah.
Yeah.
We perhaps got a little bit more tinted when we were talking about Dorne, or right.
but that's one problem with fantasy on television is the representation. The people of color tend to be only shown at nighttime or as the bad guys,
Yeah.
or they're poor or something. So when the new Lord of the Rings show came out, the Rings of Power show, and people were mad that they were elves. I'm like, why? Tolkien never specified their skin color.
Exactly.
Who
Kind of-
cares?
yes, like in the Harry Potter universe, Hermione was described as having, she's little with buck teeth and
Yep.
bushy hair.
Yep.
Her skin color was never
Never
described.
addressed. Yeah,
So when they cast a
little white girl,
well,
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson for the movies, and then later in the musical they cast a black girl.
Oh no!
Oh, there was this
oh no! That's like
huge
Ariel's
thing.
black. Now what are we
Oh,
gonna
right?
do?
The Little Mermaid. By the way, you can listen to that. That's Debatable by Sharon Lynn. She did an episode specifically about the Little Mermaid and the casting and how people are all riled up about it.
Yeah.
But right, representation. It does matter. Watching Game of Thrones, it would have been even better, I believe, if they, for example, maybe people from the free cities were maybe look like me.
Yeah. I mean, why not? And it's fantasy.
Exactly.
This is one thing I've always agreed with Tolkien on. You can't take your real world beliefs and ideals and put them into a fantasy world. That defeats
Right.
the purpose of a fantasy
There's
world.
magic and dragons here, okay? So
Exactly.
really, what kind of rules are we talking about?
You're going to be mad that a mermaid has dark skin, but you don't care that some white people are getting blue skin in a movie or green skin in a movie. You know,
Right.
like that's stupid.
I didn't also see very much representation as far as sexuality goes in
No.
Game of Thrones.
Not really.
Not
Yeah.
really.
I mean, unless you're super into incest.
Okay. All right.
Which,
let's
I'm
not
not.
talk about incest.
I mean, I hardly ever see my sexuality represented on television
never.
ever. I think one of the few characters you could argue would be the Doctor from Doctor Who, but not every generation.
Right.
Some of the regenerations do have one,
Right.
which is fine. I just think it's cool if they don't. There's Yelena, the new Black Widow.
Yes.
She's asexual in the comics.
In the comics, but we're not sure whether
Right.
or not that's going to be maintained
Yeah.
in the movies or
Fingers
shows.
crossed. Fingers
Right,
crossed.
fingers
you know.
crossed. Fingers crossed. Clark Griffin in the 100 was bi,
Yes.
which was nice to see.
But she also got the Joss Whedon treatment.
No, she did.
Yeah.
I mean, the 100 is it
was good
It was
for
a
a little
good
while.
show. It was a good show. Very dark. Fair warning, guys. There's a lot of death.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, just a little. But at least there was some amount of representation there as well.
Yeah.
So you know, but right. Let's talk about media then and representations. Which shows would then or movies would you recommend for our viewers who would like to see something different?
I would recommend Miles Morales' run as Spider-Man in the comics.
Why?
And he is half black, half Puerto Rican. And he actually uses some Spanish, and that's really cool for me as somebody who grew up in a bilingual household. Or if you're not a comic book reader, but you like the films, go watch Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
It's a lot
I
of
was
fun.
going to say. Because Spider-Man is traditionally, Peter Parker, right? He's just
Traditional little white boy.
little white boy
Yep.
who, grew up in Brooklyn. Is it Brooklyn?
Queens?
Queens.
I think he's Queens, yeah.
Sorry, it's Captain
That's okay.
America
Yeah.
is Brooklyn. My bad. Sorry, everybody.
okay.
Please don't call me out on that one. I swear I'm a nerd. Okay.
It's like Pedro Pascal calling Grogu Baby Yoda.
Right.
He was like, I can feel the knives sharpening right now.
The knives are sharpening. Okay, so Peter Parker, classic little white boy who grew up in Queens, and people don't usually view Spider-Man as anyone but.
Yep.
But yes, please watch Into the Spider-Verse. That's actually, it was quite. First of all, the animation was just chef's kiss.
Oh yeah, it's excellent.
It's really good.
It's a very pretty
soundtrack,
film.
also fantastic.
Yes.
And without spoiling anything, it is it's great. It's expansive. It expands your viewpoint. Viewpoint?
If you want a lot of representation seen in comics too, just read anything in the Spider-Verse, because you've got Ana Corazon, she's Latina. You've got Miles. There's Spider-Man 2099. He's Miguel O'Hara. He's half Irish, half, I want to say, Chilean. And he's a little ginger boy. He's funny. You've got Prowler, who is Miles's uncle. He's African American. I mean, it's a natural sense of diversity in that whole run.
Nice.
It's an actual glimpse of New York. And
Right, and I believe available on Disney Plus and Netflix.
yes, and the comics you can read them online, but just pretend you buy them. I'm not telling you to steal. I'm
We're
just
not
kidding.
talking. Well,
But no, like you can go to the library and get comic books now and
Yep.
check them out there. So I
love
highly
that.
recommend that.
love that. Any other shows or movies do you want to talk about?
Show wise, Last of Us is nice because of the representation. You've got Pedro Pascal playing
Yes.
Joel, which is cool.
He is. Oh, first of all, The Last of Us being based on a video game. That's
Yes.
a bit on the older side.
Yeah.
How many years now?
I couldn't tell you.
Exactly 4 or 5 years at
Yeah.
least. All right, The Last of Us has been around for a while, so I think a lot of us understand the context
Right.
of that show. I think I do really like what they've done as far as because when you play The Last of Us, the video game, you're first person. You're going through the world
From Joel's eyes, I believe.
from Joel's eyes, and it's actually quite scary. For those of you who don't know, it's zombies, right?
Yeah, zombie apocalypse.
It's a zombie apocalypse, so it's scary as first person. But to try to maintain that sense of suspense and fear and dread and stuff in a show when you're no longer first person, you're watching actors portray the characters that you know and love. I think they did a really great job.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Pedro. That man is a joy to watch.
He is a joy.
Fantastic actor.
And he's kind of become an internet
He's
sensation.
internet's daddy. He's the
Internet's daddy. Please, Pedro Pascal, come to Taiwan.
I know,
I would
right?
love to interview you, and then I'll let Kim Gordon know so she can come here too.
I would probably die.
Oh, yes.
He's so tall. I would just shrink in his shadow.
Is he tall?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, a lot of these nerds are now.
right.
But and I guess for one more shot at representation, the classic besides Marvel that's always been pretty good about representation would have to be the Star Wars universe.
Yes. Good job. I mean, I was never for the original Star Wars movies, the first 3. But I think from there, they've done TV spin-offs. They've reimagined the universe and a lot of the characters in a way that is far more inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty, like, for the time, it was pretty good because you had Lando, my boy.
Yeah.
But now you've got, Pedro in that one as well. He's a Mandalorian now.
Yep.
You've got all sorts of different, like Ahsoka Tano is played by Rosario Dawson.
Yes.
She's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've got a lot of diversity in there too. And fantasy's got a place for everybody. And it always should have.
Yes, definitely always should have. So, speaking from someone who we have grown up in a world where we were outcast and ostracized, it is really fantastic to see this become mainstream, people accepting the franchises that we know and love.
Yep.
And that there's far more representation. We can now see people like us in the media.
It's great to feel seen.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you, Kim Gordon, for coming into the studio. You are listening to Geek Out. I'm Michelle Chang. Join, what's your cup of tea? What tickles your fancy, or what floats your boat? Join us as we share passions from people in Taiwan and around the world. Bye.
Bye-bye.